So, of course, the books are so important, not only to get them out and distribute them. We don't want to keep this knowledge locked up and just within this room. We want everyone to get advantage and take advantage of Srila Prabhupada's literature. Before I get started, I want to share something with you because over the years, this is the best compilation I've heard, that over the years, devotees would say, you know, I've looked in the database and I don't see anything about Prabhupada mentioning about these books being the guide for the next 10,000 years. I can't find anything. So a devotee put this out, which is very nice. In his recent article, Garuda Prabhu took a cautious stance regarding the often made claim that Srila Prabhupada's books will be the law books for the next 10,000 years. Now, ordinarily, I wouldn't bring this up, but all the different quotes are right here on paper, and Prabhupada also mentioned it in the morning walk. So this is important, because it's like devotees couldn't trace it out. When Ramaswara came back to the movement, or became active again, then he was saying is that actually when he was talking with Prabhupada, there was no typical where Prabhupada mentioned it. But then that was the only real thing that we had. So I'm going to mention these now. John. Actually, you know what, I better check mine. Because sorry, I'm not a cell phone guy. Okay. Hopefully it's off. So Garuda is saying, if we can trust Ramaswara's quote of Prabhupada, because there was no tape recorder on it, quote, yes, my books will be the law books for humanity for the next 10,000 years. That is how I think as I write each word, unquote. Then we should not change a word unless in rare instances and in consultation with a team of pure editors consisting of educated, trained, and experienced dedicated devotees, only when it is deemed to be absolutely necessary. So that's a quote from Garuda, my God brother. So, to my knowledge, Srila Prabhupada did not put in writing that his books would be the law books for mankind for the next 10,000 years. However, it appears from searching the database that he said it on a number of occasions. Okay. So there are devotees who have found it. So this is why this is important, because it's in one paper, all the different quotes. Quote, this is from Bhaddi Narayan Maharaj from San Diego. In the early morning hours, while you were doing your translating work, there was a chance of being called into your room for some small service. Sometimes you would then share charming details of your childhood, your latest philosophical insight, or perhaps a cutting critique of material life. Knowing this, and eager for such an opportunity, one of your servants began straightening up the foyer in front of your room, deliberately making noise with the hope that you might hear that he was up and invite him in. You did, but in a very serious voice you instructed, please, don't make noise. Don't you know that I have to select every word so carefully? These pages will stand as the law books for the next 10,000 years. So that's Bhaddi Narayan Maharaj. Now the next one's from Tomar Krishna Maharaj. Quote, the fact that we continue to seek solutions by consulting Prabhupada's teachings indicates that we believe they are relevant, that he himself said, in my presence, that they would continue to be the law books for the next 10,000 years as strong a warrant as we could wish. Tomar Krishna Maharaj. The next one's from Shruti Kirti, Prabhupada's servant. August of 1973, Srila Prabhupada stayed at Bhaktivedanta Manor for over a month. Most evenings there was a lively darshan. Srila Prabhupada would speak to various guests. George Harrison, Donovan, Ravi Shankar, and others came one night after the other. Night after night, I was told to quote from the Bhagavad Gita as it is. It was during one of these evening darshans, Srila Prabhupada said, quote, these books are the law books for the next 10,000 years. From Shruti Kirti, his servant. The next one is from Ramaswara. We were just amazed that Srila Prabhupada knew everything. And I blurted out, Srila Prabhupada, you know everything about everything. You see the future. You comment on things that are current, but also talk about the future, I said. This is what makes your book so unique. Previous great acharyas have written commentaries on Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, but your commentaries are not only perfect for the time that we're living in, but they're perfect for the future, because you have the ability to see the future. It's just amazing to me how unique and special your books are. Prabhupada smiled and said, yes, my books will be the law books for humanity for the next 10,000 years. That is how I think as I write each word. That's by Ramaswami. So Jai, so there it is, Prabhus. It's just that's the first time I've seen where all the quotes like that were in one listing, and is that also? Oh wait, there's one more here. This came later. This was on a morning walk on June 21st, 1976, Toronto, Srila Prabhupada. But you cannot expect that cent per cent people will come. That is not possible. But even 1/4% people come to this, then it will be successful. So you can do the math. Like if you have so many people in the United States, and then you figure that out, or within the state, or within the city. Compared to the American population, what percentage we have got? Still, they have made some impression in the Hare Krishna movement. Literatures are selling. They are appreciating. Learned circle. Takes some time, but if we stick to our principles and do not make any compromise and push on in this way, I have given you instruction. It will never stop. It will go on. It will never stop. At least for 10,000 years it will go on. Srila Prabhupada, June 21st, 1976, morning walk, Toronto. Enjoy. So now we'll hear from that great personality, Srila Prabhupada, who's the Siksha Guru in ISKCON, and for every devotee. He's a Siksha Guru. He's not just my Guru, my Prabhupada. It's not like that. He's for everybody. Just like in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, you have the Ramanujacharya. They have their own acharyas, but the liberator is actually Ramanujacharya himself. And then the Madhvacharya Sampradaya, the Madhvas, then there you also have Madhvacharya. He is the liberator. And you also have many acharyas that are also there present in the past. So they all have a connection with their acharya like that. So similarly us also, we have our connection to Srila Prabhupada in that way. That we have our own gurus, like that's the whole thing about ISKCON. We have many different gurus. And then we have the acharya himself, who's Srila Prabhupada, who's the Siksha Guru for everybody. So now we'll quote from, these are from different lectures about purity. This is from September 28th, 1968 lecture in Seattle. Srila Prabhupada, yes, purity means standing on the spiritual platform. That is purity. In the material platform, there is no purity. So according to Bhagavad Gita, that standard of purity, that means standing on the spiritual platform. Brahmabhutta prasanama na sochati na kanchati samatsarvasu bhushteshu madbhaktim lapite param. September 8th, 1966 lecture. There are two kinds of purity, external and internal. External purity is bodily cleanliness. Internal purity means keeping the mind always. Should always keep our internal purity, regardless of external conditions. So that's sadachar, our internal purity, and also external, because it's etiquette, how you're going to deal with others, how you're going to reciprocate in a positive way, not only to get a positive result, but also to not offend others. Prabhupada says a Vaishnava is one who does not offend others with his speech. Of course, sometimes people get upset even when something very mild is mentioned. Early in the movement, when we would go down the street chanting, people would be shocked. You'd see them, it'd be so funny, you'd smile because you see all these people and they're just like, you just change their worldview. It's just like, this isn't happening, what's going on here? And I know what they mean, because before I became a devotee, I was in New York City, at one Led Zeppelin concert. And my brother, of course, had been a devotee. He's my Bahushira guru. But I was at a concert there, and then the Bharadwaja was leading the kirtan, and it was coming by. And it was so potent. Everyone's in line, their mind is just thinking about going to that concert. But when the devotees came, everyone turned around and saw the devotees. They went by. It was just like time stood still. And then when they went by, and they were out, and then everyone turned around again to go back in. It was just like I said, that's weird. I've never seen people act like that before. Because the potency of the holy name, you know, because it's not different than Krishna. And so the internal purity. So there has to be sadachar. In other words, you're always checking yourself. You're always thinking, no, should I do? I shouldn't think that thought. No, I shouldn't look at that woman that way. I shouldn't. No, I shouldn't be spiteful to that person. You always have to be checking yourself. And of course, some people say, oh, this is so much. Like one time, one of my godbrothers, Jayananda, he said, there's so many rules and regulations. This has become like a movement of rules and regulations. But in a way, actually, is that all those have their place. It's like learning a computer. The first time I'm still slow on a computer, but the first time I turn the computer on, I go like, how am I going to learn this stuff? How am I going to remember this stuff? And I had so many pages on the side, do this, do this, do this. But eventually you learn it. It just naturally comes that way. It just takes time. So in the same way, there's so many things you learn for sadachar that eventually it just becomes second nature. But you have to practice them and you have to apply them. Otherwise, each time it'll be like a test. Oh no. But after a while it becomes just like that and becomes, just what to do, not to do, and it becomes second nature. Sarva parivanir muktam tat paratena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchate. Prabhupada quotes this all the time. Bhakti or devotional service means engaging our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the master of all the senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme Lord, there are side effects. First, he is freed from all material designations, and second, his senses are purified simply by being employed in the service of the Lord. That's from Narada Pancharatra. Hey, Hari Bol, say Hare Krishna. Jai. Security ki jai. We have to have security in this world. The holy name is our security. Jai. So letter Yogeshwara, December 28, 1971. Our unique asset is our purity. No one anywhere can match it. Whew, that's a high bill to fill. Of course, when we had our heads shaved, Sikhs, in yellow robes, well, bed sheets at that time. We actually had rolls of cloth, and you cut them and you put it on. So everyone was wearing the same thing. The women were wearing yellow or the brahmachari saffron, but it was all the same. So everyone was exactly the same except for the socks. The socks would be all mixed up because you'd have all the clothes in one, all the socks in one big bin. And can you believe it? All the Brahmin underwear in one big bin. And so it was like, you'd be picking out, and then all the devotees would go out and they'd have all these nice robes and all the socks wouldn't match. It was very bizarre. But the thing is, when people saw us, they said, wow. Of course, nobody came up to us and said, you're all glowing, But when Srila Prabhupada would come to the airport, one policeman came up in the airport and he said, your teacher, he's glowing. He's glowing, And then another time in Rath Yatra, a British policeman, he saw Prabhupada and said, he's glowing. He's glowing. And there was one godbrother that I have, he told me personally, that, I'm trying to remember his name, this was in Delhi, and he used to practice mystic yoga. And so, he would go astral traveling and everything. So, he said that he came into the room one time to come up and have darshan in Lajpat Nagar, where the original Delhi temple was. Beautiful, murtis of Radha Krishna. He came in to have darshan, and when he came around the door, all of a sudden, they said, oh my God, and he had to bow down, because Prabhupada's effulgence, which was just filling up the whole room. He couldn't even look at Prabhupada. He came in, it was just like he got hit by, this bright light. It's like when somebody shines a bright light in your eyes, And so he bowed down, and then when he looked up, he wasn't there anymore. But he knows what he saw. He said he was glowing like you wouldn't believe. He said his effulgence was filling the whole room. So the thing is that these are experiences that devotees have seen from Prabhupada. There's one devotee and Prabhupada came into the airport, and the devotee said to Prabhupada, "Shine, Prabhupada, shine!" And the devotee just, Prabhupada gave it this 10,000 watt smile, So here's a letter to Lochanananda, July 7th, 1975. Yes, as you say, purity is attractive to people. Continue it. Our only asset is our purity. Pavitram paramam bhavan. You cannot reach Krishna without being pure, because he is the supreme pure. So that's one reason why is that purity is so important. You know what I mean? We can dress like devotees, but if we don't have that real purity, that cleanliness, people should be able to feel it from you. They should be able to see that, oh, there's nothing wrong with this guy. You don't have to second guess, you know what I mean? The people should realize that, oh, this person's really strictly following. And it's very sensitive. Oh, the great yogi just came in. Hare Krishna. Last life. Now this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.2.28. To save a surrendered soul from repeated birth and death, the Lord purifies him of contamination by offering him a little distress. Oh, great. A devotee welcomes distress as another feature of the Lord. I mean, Haribo, Hare Krishna. So the thing is that who wants distress? Nobody wants distress. Nobody wants to stress in family life. Nobody wants to stress at your job. Nobody wants to stress from the material energy. Nobody wants to stress from the traffic jam. But it comes our way. And it's actually, being in the material world is like a rigged game. You have it where no matter what you do here, is that you lose. You gain for some time and then you lose. That's the distress. It comes to all of us. We want everything to run smoothly, but it doesn't. Or it comes from our computer. See? She knows. So the thing is that this distress is something that's there. It's the sukhi dukhi da, the up and down of the material energy, going up and down in the waves of the material energy. And so in this way is that Krishna gives it to us so that we'll become closer to Krishna. Some of the things distress we can get used to is just the noise, like the background noise. But when you really get hit hard, then you know, oh gosh, and you start praying to Krishna, then you remember Krishna. It's like Kunti Devi said, oh, give me this distress so I can think of you all the time, my Lord. Bring on this distress. And it's like, oh boy. When you read that, it's like, I don't want that. But she's such a great devotee. She knows that if I'm in distress, I'll think of you more, my Lord. I'll think of you. So that's the very important thing. Is that, but if people have forgotten. They've forgotten this purity. Purity is considered to be, like not cool. It's part of, it's not hip, it's not, who cares about purity? We've seen purity in the Catholic Church and look where it is now. All these things are coming up. Of course, we shouldn't brag. But the thing is that we want to have it that will actually be pure. And we set an example of purity. Aho dukam, mahadukam, dukkha dukkha dharamyataha, kutartum vishatam ratna, harenami vikevalam. That, oh, what a sorrow, what a great sorrow, more painful than any other misery in this world. Mistaking it as a piece of glass, people have forgotten this jewel. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. It's everything. We've forgotten it, everyone's forgotten it. In many religions you have it where it's praise the Lord. That's like kirtan has been lost. Praise the Lord, like in the Bible. And so this is the thing, is that we have to come back to the standard, because by the purity of the holy name, that's what will raise us up. It's so simple in Kali Yuga. That's why it's offered by Lord Chaitanya, that's why it's offered by so many different acharyas, sharing of the holy name. And it'll automatically be supreme purifier, and doesn't cost anything. So this distress, yes. And do we have a Bhagavad Gita here? Bhagavad Gita 10:31. Of purifiers I am the wind. You know, we all experience that and remember that, especially after these fires. You can't breathe. And so what happens? Then we just had that big rain. What is it? Automatically, the purifier of the wind. Everyone was saying, oh, the air's so pure. It was on Thanksgiving Day. Showing thanks. We were thankful. Everyone was thankful. Beautiful clouds, puffy clouds. That's Krishna's hair in the universal form. And then the purifiers I had in the wind, Krishna's in the air, thinking like that. So, what purifies on the wind? Gita 16:23. The human form of life is meant for purifying one's existence. The animals can't do it. They go past stool here, past stool there. You know, they can't come up to any platform of purity. And some of these animals sometimes even come back, the husband or the wife may come back as the cat or dog within the family because they're so degraded, then they come back, but they can't purify themselves. That's why the human form of life is so rare and so important. But because you see people all over the planet, you just think, oh, let me enjoy. And then what happens? The person dies, and they might get another human birth, and they might not. Bhagavad Gita 16, verse 1 through 3. The Blessed Lord said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, all these transcendental qualities belong to godly men. So to follow these things makes one purified. You see, the Gita is going to mention the whole thing about purification. It's going to mention all the different steps to purify one. Of course, chanting of the holy name, that is also automatically there, and we do that every day. But there's other things that apply at certain times, like sacrifices. We don't do yajnas every day, fire yajnas, fire homa yajnas. But that's also a fire that comes periodically. But the holy names every day, chanting every day. Bhagavad Gita 5:11. The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification. That's the purpose. You see, they're totally focused on what they're doing. Why? To become purified. It isn't just, okay, I'm doing yoga, or I'm doing gyan, or, I'm doing karma yoga. It isn't just, it's to become purified. That's why they have karma, yoga, action, and Krishna consciousness in the Gita, one of the chapters. Bhagavad Gita 5:6. Unless one is engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, mere renunciation of activities cannot make one happy. The sages purified by works of devotion achieve the supreme without delay. So, besides chanting Hare Krishna, we have to think, what acts of devotion are we doing daily? That's service. That's service to the Supreme Lord. Well, we're not interested in just having shantaras, where you just, oh, look, devotees are eating prasadam, that's wonderful. I think I'll do some of that. Oh, look, they're the deities. Oh, they're beautiful. I like to look at them. That's all shantara, you're just observing. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh. The thing is to become active in some sort of service, like making ghee wicks every day for your deities at home. That's service. Or offering flowers. You have to go out and pick flowers to decorate, to do pushpanjali for your altar, to pick flowers to offer to the deity. That's service. There's many different ways. Or giving money. You go online, you give money to devotees that are distributing books. That's service. You're sacrificing some of your hard-earned labor. And then so there's many different ways how you can actually engage different things in your life to do some service. We have to do some service, not just on Saturday, not just on Sunday, but actually is that every day. There has to be something where you're doing some service for the Lord. You can do meditation, mental meditation, serving the Lord in many different ways. Manasa puja, it's called. Pujaris, we do this. Mentally, before you go on the altar, you think about the service that I'm going to do on the altar. And then you picture like that. Or you can even elevate it. And you say, okay, well, today I want to give 10 garlands to the deity that I'm taking care of today. There's only one on there. And you can meditate like that. Okay, now I'm going to give 10 garlands to the deity. Like that. You can meditate. So in that way, that's also service. You don't have to have a dime to do service. You can also do it in the mind, Manasa Puja. Bhagavad Gita 4:10. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me, and taking refuge in me, many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me. Who? Knowledge of who? Jai. And thus they all attained transcendental love for me. Bhagavad Gita 16:22. Purport. The more a person is freed from lust, anger, and greed, the more his existence becomes pure. So that the three gates of hell, lust, greed, and anger. So the more that we become purified from those, or purify them in the service of Krishna, only become angry when devotees are attacked, only engaging in lust with one's wife to procreate for children. Or you can also, when one becomes elevated, not me, not now, then at that time your lust can also focus towards Krishna. Like Prabhupada one time, he said, if that drunk, he's drinking that alcohol, and if he's thinking that taste is Krishna, that eventually also will purify him. Because he's thinking, this is Krishna. It's like Kamsa, my enemy, I hate him. He couldn't stop thinking about Krishna. But he got Krishna's benediction because he was thinking about Krishna, even up to the time of death. Bhagavad Gita 9:17. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rik, Sama, and the Yajur Veda. So right there, Krishna is saying, I am the purifier. I was just hearing Bhakti Churu Maharaj, very kindly, he was talking about Krishna Lila, and he was talking about how Lord Brahma was watching. He was saying, look at this. Who is this boy? Now imagine the Yoga Maya. Imagine, who's this boy? Here he is, he's eating with these other boys. And they're stealing off his plate, and he's stealing off their plate. And he's putting food in their mouth, and they're putting food in his mouth. Who is this boy? I have to find out who this boy is. Because this same boy, he's turned around, and I went and took all these boys, the coward boys, and I put them in a cave. And I come back, and then he's with the same boys again. What's going on here? This is strange. Who is this boy? And then I go back and check the cave, and the boys are still there asleep. So I come back again, and I see this boy, and I'm watching him. And he's eating and doing all these things, and he's acting like a little spoiled boy. And who is he? So in this way, this Yoga Maya from the Lord, because Krishna can make anyone into illusion. It's not that it's, the guru, he cannot be in bewilderment. This is how the Madhvas are analyzing it. They won't talk about Brahma V. Mohan Lila. But Prabhupada easily understands it, and also the Acharyas in our line, Gaudiya Vaishnava line, because it was a pastime that Krishna puts the living entity in. And especially it can be an Acharya, it can be a Gopi, it can be a husband, father, whatever. But Krishna can do like that. In that purport of that same verse, Prabhupada says, that subject matter which helps us purify our constitutional position is especially Krishna, because Krishna says, I am the purifier. Bhagavad Gita 18:5. Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up, but should be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. So here, we'll look this up now. Bhagavad Gita 18:5. Page 664 in the Golden Book. Yagyadam tapakarma Na tyajyam karmyam evata yagyo dhanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The yogis should perform acts for the advancement of human society. There are many purificatory processes for advancing a human being to spiritual life. The marriage ceremony, for example, is considered to be one of these sacrifices. It is called Vivaha Yagya. Should a sannyasi, who is on the renounced order of life, and who has given up his family relations, encourage the marriage ceremony? Prabhupada was saying that all my disciples, he said, they should get married. Early in the movement, he was saying like that. Some took sannyas, and some fell down. And at the same time, Prabhupada said, Madhudrisa, he's a very good manager. Don't destroy his spiritual life. Encourage him. He can come back and live as a grihasta. So Prabhupada was he had vision like this. He wasn't condemning like that. The Lord says here that any sacrifice which is meant for human welfare should never be given up. Vivaha Yagya, the marriage ceremony, is meant to regulate the human mind so that it may become peaceful for spiritual advancement. You see, just like we have experience, the husband and the wife. The wife is taking care of the home like that, and the husband, and then when they have some time, they can read together, they can understand Krishna consciousness and all these wonderful teachings that Prabhupada has given us. But in the meantime, they each have their duties, you see. But then it works out, because then eventually the husband has peace of mind, the wife has peace of mind. If they're properly following what Prabhupada says about how marriage couples are supposed to act like. Early in the movement, most devotees, they didn't know how to behave. That's why the divorce rate was so high. Because they didn't know, they weren't following Prabhupada, and they weren't following Prabhupada's instructions about how married couples were supposed to act. So therefore, a lot of the divorce went on. Not that Prabhupada approved it, but this is what happened because they weren't following Prabhupada. Vivaha Yagya, the marriage ceremony, is meant to regulate the human mind so that it may become peaceful for spiritual advancement. For most men, this Vivaha Yagya should be encouraged even by persons in the renounced order of life. Sannyasis should never associate with women, but that does not mean that one who is in the lower stages of life, a young man, should not accept their wife in the marriage ceremony. All prescribed sacrifices are meant for achieving the Supreme Lord. Therefore, in the lower stages, they should not be given up. Similarly, charity is for the purification of the heart. If charity is given to suitable persons, as described previously, it leads one to advanced spiritual life. So, and then also in the marriage ceremony, or anytime we have a yagya, it's Om Pavitra Pavitrova Sarvavastam Gadopiva Yasmaret Pundarikaksham Sabhaya Yantaraha Suchihi Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu. The translation: whether one is unpurified or purified, or has even passed through all conditions and stages of life, if one remembers the Supreme Lord, who is beautified by lotus petal eyes, Pundarikaksham, he becomes purified both outwardly and inwardly. Earlier we were talking about the external and the internal purification. And then it's actually mentioning here, simply by meditating on the lotus-eyed Lord, Pundarikaksham. This is from the Garuda Purana. It's a very important verse. Bhagavad Gita 10:9 purport. Bhakti Yoga is the purification of the senses. At the present moment in material existence, the senses are always impure, being engaged in sense gratification. But by the practice of Bhakti Yoga, these senses can become purified, and in the purified state, they come directly in contact with the Supreme Lord. Like that verse earlier, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Uchate. is that by engaging the senses in the service of the master of the senses, Rishikesh, then automatically they become purified. You can't get rid of them like that. You can't just deny them and say, oh, they don't exist, or try to push them out of the way. Here's another one, Bhagavad Gita 18, verse 51 to 53. Page 692. The English translation says, being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats little, who controls his body, mind, and power of speech, who is always in trance, and who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship, and peaceful, such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. And what is the point of self-realization? To become
Krishna consciousness.
Purified. Yeah, Krishna consciousness, of course. Yeah. That's it, Krishna, because Krishna's in the center. Krishna says, I am the purifier. So that's the whole point. Self-realization, become Krishna conscious, think of Krishna always, and never forget Krishna. That's Prabhupada's remedy. Purport. When one becomes purified by intelligence, he keeps himself in the mode of goodness. Thus one becomes a controller of the mind and is always in trance. The Manoratena, the chariot of the mind, it's going here, it's going there, it's going everywhere. You know, you're doing your Gayatri and you're way off in Europe somewhere. You know, you always have to bring it back. You know, hey, I'm not pure. I can't. You know, my mind goes there. I have to pull it back. But that's the whole point. You're pulling it back, and as you get more and more controlled like that, then eventually it doesn't go out as much, and then eventually nil. That's a purified state. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, that stage like that. It takes a long time to purify. Of course, first you have faith, you know, Shraddha, and then after that, then association sadhusanga, then bhajana kriya, which is initiation. And a lot of devotees dwell at that stage for a long time. When am I going to get, you know? And then anartha nivritti, you know, you want to get, okay. Of course, the senses are becoming purified. The anarthas are becoming less and less. Nishta, steadiness like that. And then you get the ruchi, the taste. All these things also you get earlier. You get taste earlier. Otherwise, we wouldn't keep chanting. You get taste earlier. You get steadiness also earlier. But it's still not completely. Even in bhava. Well, next comes asaktis. This attachment to Krishna, become very attached. In the beginning, you become attached too. You like to go do your service, you know. But this is attachment all the time, 24/7. That's how intense it is. And then even in bhava, there's still some little anarthas there. You can read it in Madhurya Kandambini by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. You can read it. And then you come to the next point, and then praying. And it's solid. Then you got somebody like the level like Srila Prabhupada just coming in, just, you know, the potency like that. So these different stages are there to purify us, and you get a result. It isn't just like, okay, I have this point now, and then I got this point, you know, like merit badges as a Boy Scout or something. No, or a Girl Scout. No, that actually purity comes with it, and you can feel it. You can taste the purity yourself. Such a detached person naturally prefers to live in a secluded place. He does not eat more than what he requires, and he controls the activity of his body and mind. He has no false ego, because he does not accept the body as himself. Nor has he a desire to make the body fat and strong by accepting so many material things. And we see that now. It's such a common thing now, because people are either eating too much, or they're eating growth hormones that are in the meat, and they become very big. Because he has no bodily concept of life, he is not falsely proud. He is satisfied with everything that is offered to him by the grace of the Lord, and he is never angry in the absence of sense gratification. Nor does he endeavor to acquire sense objects. Thus, when he is completely freed from false ego, he becomes non-attached to all material things, and that is a stage of self-realization of Brahman. That stage is called Brahmabhuta stage. It was nice because Prabhupada was saying there's gradations of Brahman, and I went, huh? In the Vedanta Sutra of Srimad Bhagavatam 4.1.15 purport, and in there Prabhupada says there's the gradations of Brahman, and it caught me, gradations, because you just think the Brahman, the white light. Prabhupada said Krishna is 100% Brahman, by quantity and quality. And then 90% for Narayan, and then 84% for Shiva, and then 78% for Brahma, and we're also 78%. But Brahma's is like this, or you could say all the way to the ceiling, and our quantity is like down here, even though it's 78%. But the amount is gigantic, because only the most purified personality in the universe can become a Brahma. So imagine that. So imagine Krishna at 100%. Lord Shiva at 84%. Just imagine that. And so the purity level is just so amazing. So the Prabhupada was saying like that there's degrees of in Brahman. And then it says, this is described in Bhagavad Gita 270, a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Enjoy. And then here from Bhagavatam we have a few quotes. This is from First Canto, 15th chapter, text 40. Maharaj Yudhisthira at once relinquished all his garments, belt and ornaments of the royal order, and became completely disinterested and unattached to everything. To become purified of material contamination, this is the point, to become purified of material contamination is the necessary qualification for becoming one of the associates of the Lord. No one can become an associate of the Lord or can go back to Godhead without such purification. Wow. I mean, that's heavy. In other words, is that, hey, I'm attached to my ring. I'm attached to my watch. I got to roll it. I'm attached to my dhoti. You think about all the things we're really attached to, and think about all the things that you have to cut. Because they, I want to dress nice because then people respect me. Which there's some validity to, but it's a border. It's pratishta. Hey, I look good. You have to be very careful. And so that's one reason why when you go into Vanaprastha, you're supposed to only wear white cloth, only white, no borders, no fringes, just all white, because you're renouncing. It's like the sannyasi who wears all orange, just orange. One time, I was with one sannyasi traveling with him, and we got a dhoti and then we dyed it, but it had a green border. He goes, sannyasis don't wear this. I said, oh, we didn't know. He said, simple plain cloth, like that. So here it is, Maharaj Yudhisthira. He's actually relinquishing all his garments. He says, no one can become an associate of the Lord or can go back to God without such purification. Maharaj Yudhisthira, therefore, to become spiritually pure, at once gave up his royal opulence, relinquishing his royal dress and garments. The kashaya, or saffron loincloth of a sannyasi, indicates freedom from all attractive material garments, and thus he changed his dress accordingly. He became disinterested in his kingdom and family, and thus became free from all material contamination or material designation. People are generally attached to various kinds of designations. The designation of family, society, country, occupation, wealth, position, and many others. As long as one is attached to such designations, he is considered materially impure. The so-called leaders of men in the modern age are attached by national consciousness, but they do not know that such false consciousness is another designation of the materially conditioned soul. One has to relinquish such designations before one can become eligible to go back to Godhead. Foolish people adore such men who die in national consciousness. You see, we glorify people. Prophet said one time, there was one of Prophet's godbrothers in Cuttack, Arissa, I went to interview, and he had passed away, but his wife was there. And she wanted to get into politics. She was there at the very beginning, when just after 1947, when they were, when they started their own party and everything, and in India, after called Freedom at Midnight. But she wanted to actually get very involved in the politics, but she was complaining, how the politics was going on and so many things. And Prabhupada said, Mata, he said, I'm sorry to say, but he said, no one's going to remember these politicians in 100 or 200 years. Nobody. The universal form of the Lord, Prabhupada opened his mouth big. He said it's going to devour them all. The only personalities that are remembered are the great devotees of Krishna. They're the only ones. And when we align with that line, therefore, then we're glorious. We'll become eternally glorious because we're connected to the live wire. Not all these dead wires that don't have any juice, That's why we don't care about this national consciousness, and the bodily consciousness. Oh, I'm a devotee from South India, Oh, I'm from Shiranga, It's not like that. Of course, you're from the United States. What do you have? We're all idiots anyway. We're malechas. But it's like I've seen some devotees that come from India and they say, "Oh no, I'm from a Brahmin family and I'm from Tamil Nadu." So, oh, okay, Hare Krishna. We should never be proud like that. I mean, it's due to previous activities and previous birth where one actually gets that position, and that's very good. But then the other side is, you have it in Scripture where it's mentioned, and then one devotee mentioned this in Puri, he almost got killed, that Rakshasas take birth in Brahmin families in Kali Yuga. And so in that way, he had to run, because then they were chasing him and they wanted to kill him. So foolish people adore such men who die in national consciousness. But here's an example of Maharaj Yudhisthira, a royal king, who prepared himself to leave this world without such national consciousness. And yet he is remembered even today because he was a great pious king, almost on the same level with the personality of Godhead, Sri Ram. And because people of the world were dominated by such pious kings, they were happy in all respects, and it was quite possible for such great emperors to rule the world. Yes. So here's the next verse, verse 41. Then he amalgamated all the sense organs into the mind. So he's doing yoga now, as it's described in the Ishopanishad, where all the different senses are going into the others. Then he amalgamated all the sense organs into the mind, then the mind into the life into breathing, his total existence into the embodiment of the 5 elements, and his body into death. Then as pure self, he became free from all material conception of life. Maharaj Yudhisthira, like his brother Arjuna, began to concentrate and gradually became freed from all material bondage. First, he concentrated all the actions of the senses and amalgamated them into the mind. Or in other words, he turned his mind towards the transcendental service of the Lord. He prayed that since all material activities are performed by the mind in terms of actions and reactions of the material senses, and since he was going back to Godhead, the mind would wind up its material activities and be turned toward the transcendental service of the Lord. There was no longer a need for material activities. Actually, the activities of the mind cannot be stopped. For they are a reflection of the eternal soul. But the quality of the activities can be changed from matter to the transcendental service of the Lord. The material color of the mind is changed when one washes it from contaminations of life breathing and thereby frees it from the contamination of repeated births and deaths and situates it in pure spiritual life. All is manifested by the temporary embodiment of the material body, which is a production of the mind at the time of death. And if the mind is purified by practice of transcendental loving service to the Lord, and is constantly engaged in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord, there is no more chance of the mind's producing another material body after death. The pure soul will be able to return back home, back to Godhead. Jai. So purity is the force. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So any questions? Prabhupada said it all. Haribol, Jai.
You were talking about purity, and it seems like, at least to me, my understanding is that we want to be pure, right? Try to do activities and consciousness purity, but does it ultimately depend on Krishna, this full purification?
Both.
Both.
See, in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, they had a split, Tingalai and Vadakalai, because one said it's only by the mercy of the deity, or Krishna or Vishnu. And then Venkatadeshika, on his side, he was saying, is that you have to study, you're self-endeavor, you have free will. In Gaudiya Vaishnavism, they're both of them together. It's the mercy of Krishna and the Guru, Krishna Prasad, Guru Prasad, and then it's also your own endeavor. Prabhupada said, don't remain in nonsense. That means it has to come from your side. He's giving the benediction. This one man came up to Prabhupada and wanted to touch his feet and said, oh, please save me, please save me. Prabhupada said, yes, I can save you, but you have to do the work. Yeah. So Prabhupada is giving us the way, and then we have to do it from our side. So as long as that endeavor is there, then automatically then they go together and it works. Hey, it's working for me. I was so screwed up in my head. I was so spaced out and just, but it worked for me, so it can work for anyone, you know. Really, we had so many crazies joining early in the movement. You wouldn't believe it. You'd be like, oh my God, how are these people going to get purified? But it happens. It works, you know. It takes some years, but it works. And then you get the result, and it's like everyone's, you know, of course, if you don't commit offenses, you won't taste. Krishna gives that taste every so often, that ecstasy. And then you go, oh, here it is, oh, hell. You know, then you know, I'm on the right path, and I'm making advancement. And as long as that's there, you chant your 16 rounds, and you don't offend devotees, then your advancement's guaranteed. Because you're praying to Krishna, and you're chanting Krishna's name. Confirmed. So, yes, and you're doing it.
I have a question. Please, if you can elaborate more on this attachment to the position.
Yes, it's a... You know the story about Ramachandra and the dog, right? How many people know the story about Ramachandra and the dog?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So what happened is that Ramachandra and Lakshman and Bharata and Shatrugna, they're all there in the palace. And a dog came to the front gate. Of course, back then, like Krishna could, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna, Lord Ram could talk to the animals and understand them, telepathic. You know. So there's people that can do that now too. They actually talk with the animals, talk with the cats, the dogs, the animals, and they can tame them. So it's a lost mystic potency. So this dog came to the, to the gate and said, "I want to talk to Lord Ramachandra." I said, "Oh, you're a dog, you know." And so the guardsman said, "No, go away." No, I want to talk to Lord Ramachandra. So then the gate man went and got Lakshman, and Lakshman came. He said, I want to talk to Lord Ramachandra. I have something to say to him. And he said, well, let me go ask Lord Ramachandra if he wants to see you. So he goes and he asks Lord Ramachandra. He said, there's a dog here and he has something to say. And then Lord Ramachandra said, let him in. So then the dog came in and he went to Lord Ramachandra and he said, I was kicked by one Brahmana and I was hurt and I want some corrective action. You're the king. I want some corrective action done on this because he hurt me. I was just walking by and he kicked me. So Ramachandra said, oh, he said, okay. Because Ramachandra was always worried about his followers. He wanted to make sure that they would be well taken care of and satisfied. So then he went and got the Brahmana. He brought the Brahmana and he asked him, he said, this dog here says that you kicked him and hurt him. He said, yes, I did. I was going for my service and I kicked him. So Ramachandra said, no, this is, you have to treat animals kind. This isn't good. You have to, you can always go around him. And the dog said, I was trying to get out of the way, but I wasn't fast enough and he kicked me. So then Ramachandra asked the dog, so what do you want? Well, what should be done? He said, make him a temple president. And then he said, well, wait, can you repeat that? He said, yes, make him in charge of an ashram. He said, but that sounds like elevation. He goes, yes, it is an elevation. But with his anger, he'll also become like me. I said, oh, really? Because I was that temple president. I was that person in charge of an ashram, of a temple. I thought I did everything right. And look at me. So that's the reason why we have to be very, very humble in dealing with others if we take up the position of authority. Because, a lot of times it's so easy, you do this, you do that. Oh, people are doing what I say. You do this and you do that. You bring in the money. And that the petitioner comes in. It's very dangerous. The petitioner comes in and then you begin to think in your mind. That's why you always have to pray. You have to beg for forgiveness. Just like pujaris, we beg for forgiveness when we're doing artik on the altar, or any type of service. Mantrahinam, kriyahinam, bhaktinam, janarana, pujitam, mahadeva, paripurnam, tarastame. I mean, it's a whole thing, but you're saying, if I said the mantras wrong, if I offered something wrong, if I thought something wrong, if I acted in a wrong way, please forgive that. So the authority, it's like Ramachandra, he wanted to make sure that everyone was happy in his kingdom. The authority is supposed to, that's why when you see it, you say, oh, okay, he's got to learn something. Supposed to be humble, and should ask the devotees in an Ishtagoshi, have I offended anyone here? That's one reason why I would have Ishtagoshi. We would used to do that. And have I offended anyone here? Is anyone dissatisfied with me? If I did something wrong? Have I stepped on someone's toes? If I have, explain, and then please forgive me. I'm trying, but I'm not perfect. So it's very dangerous. You have to be very careful. It's a razor's edge, as Prabhupada said. Slight little, and then you're cut and you're bleeding. So if one's not careful, then it can happen. Of course, devotees by nature, we eventually become proud of what we're doing. Because it's Krishna consciousness is a very wonderful thing. And it is something to be proud of. But then if that pratishta, that desire for name, fame, position, starts to creep in, then it's very dangerous. And that's why you see a lot of devotees, they don't want to become temple president. They used to be lining up, because this is a power position. Hey, I might get to meet Prabhupada, go in the morning walks if I'm a temple president. But if you're not careful, then you see like now, because it's a lot of headache too. And here it is back in the time of Treta Yuga with the Lord Ramachandra, and this dog thought he was doing everything right. What to speak of now, the age of quarrel? Woo. Very dangerous. So that's why, even if offenses are committed, you suffer for them and then eventually you move on. That's why Prabhupada says you chant Hare Krishna, and no matter what offenses you're committing, even the same day you're committing the offense or the sinful activity, then you pick yourself up, you keep chanting, and you go on, you go on, you go on. When I say sinful activity, I'm talking a wide range here, from the grossest to the most subtle. But then you keep chanting, you go on and on and on, and it's the greatest purifier. That's why it's Madaram Madre Byopi Mangale Byopi Mangalam Pavanam Pavane Byopi Hare Nami Kevalam, more sweet than all other sweet things, more pure than all other pure things, the greatest purifier of all purifying things. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. See that it's the greatest purifier because it's Krishna, none different than his name. Mama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Sudho Nityamukto Bina Tuam Namanamina Nam Namakari Bahadani Chasarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smananina Kalaha Itadashi Tavakiba Bhagavan Mamapi Jadaitam Idyushemi Hajani Nanuragaha. The holy name alone can render all benediction upon living beings. And thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna Govinda. In these transcendental names you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh my Lord, out of kindness you make approach easy to by your holy name, but I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. So that's the thing is we have to, that's why Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he said in the morning you have to beat your mind with a shoe, and at night, I forget, it's the shoe and the boot or the broom, the broom and the shoe. I forget which one is morning and night, but the idea is there, is that you have to constantly tell your mind, because the mind just always has that wants to go off or think something nonsense.
Be the safety boot.
Yeah, exactly. So in that way, we have to be very careful. That's a very, very, very good question, because it is, and I've seen, and sometimes you can't approach the devotee. You know, Prabhu, you might want to calm that down. What do you mean? Well, what service are you doing? What are you doing to please Prabhupada? Okay, I can't say anything. What can you do? And you can't help it. That means that person will have to suffer. You know? Yeah. It's so hard to, like say, hey, Prabhu, you know what I mean? To be personal. So, Prabhu, can I talk with you a second? Can I share something with you? You know? Oh no, he's going to fault find with me now. No, Prabhu, I want to share something that I can see that maybe you're a little aware of. Maybe you have to work on this. And if the devotee is sincere, and if he's actually humble, he'll say, tell me the whole thing. Tell me what you're observing. I want to work on this. And if you meet a devotee like that, then he's a real devotee and he's really trying. And you should offer him all respects. Jai.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare, yes, Mata.
Thank you so much. Very wonderful lecture. I have a question. It's probably going to be one of the same old questions that you've heard 1,000 times, right? But
No question. No question is repetitious or bad. All questions are good at all, because someone else might not have heard the answer.
in this specific context of purity, how do we know we're actually purifying ourselves? Because we seem to always, I seem to always make the same mistake over and over again.
Right.
And so how do I know that process of purification is actually taking place?
In the beginning, it seems endless. It seems like you've seen the hamster inside the cage and it just goes around and around and around. And the hamster thinks he's going somewhere, but he's really not. That sometimes it feels that way, that I'm not making advancement. But then eventually what happens is, as I said, Krishna will give you that taste to encourage you. He doesn't want you to wither. So when you're trying, eventually, he throws some, you might say, spiritual dust at you. And then all of a sudden, then you feel it. You're either crying or some sort of ecstasy that you're feeling. And then I'm making advancement. And then it goes on from there. Sometimes you actually just get realization. You go, I used to be like, I used to do that. I don't do that anymore. Why not? Oh, I'm becoming purified. So the harder things, they can take some years. I can say that because I'm an old man now. I'll be 65 on the 16th, December 16th. So I'm senior. I'm a senior now. But for many years, as I said, when I joined at 17, I was pretty messed up. You know what I mean? I joined young. I didn't go all the way through my 20s and 30s and 40s like that, but I joined young. But the thing is that my mind had become materially contaminated. It took many, many years because I was so passionate and so spaced out. And I had ADHD very bad. I didn't even know what it was back then. I couldn't focus, what to speak of memorizing or even reading. But then eventually, it increased. It increased. And then eventually, as I kept chanting and chanting and chanting, not giving up, and even then when I entered Grihastha ashram also, because I've been married 34 years, going on 35, is that even when there's times of sense gratification, I still keep chanting, you keep chanting. And then eventually, because the goal's here, it's a higher goal you're looking at. I'm going to achieve that. And then you keep that in focus and you keep rising up. It takes time. Don't become frustrated. I'm just talking from my own experience, my own little experience, my own humble experience, is that if I'm who was so messed up can do it, even with the problem of ADHD, then the thing is that anyone can, you know. Because now my mind's, I can remember slokas now, and Krishna's helping me. Take coconut oil too. Helps the brain. It's helping my brain to remember things. And then what happens is, Haribol Pardeya Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Mother Chaitanya, Haribol. I'm glad you came. Good to see you.
Talking about purity.
Jai, purity, Haribol. Hare Krishna. And so I hope that's a little bit encouraging. It takes some years, but the thing is that it does have effect.
Is there like some specific markers, you know, that you kind of like benchmarks? I don't know. I mean, like yeah, something that you kind of feel like we're hitting.
I know what you mean, because it's just like before, when the devotees are in Bhajan Kriya, then what happens is that's when you got initiated and you're following the 4 great principles, and it seems like you go on that for a long time before a total anartha nivritti is there, you know, where you're actually free from all different types of material contaminations and aparads. But the thing is that it takes time. See, for Krishna it's nothing. Well, what is it? It says that when Radharani was cursed by Sridham to actually come to the material world, I mean, no, the other way around. When Radharani cursed Sridham to come to the material world, she said, don't worry, it's just going to be a moment. But a moment here is many manvantaras, hundreds of thousands of years. So for Krishna, for us, that's why Prabhupada said the demigods are taking birth in this movement just to get involved in Krishna consciousness so they can actually go back to Godhead at the end of their life. They won't have to, you know, they won't have to keep hanging on and hanging on. This is a great benediction. So for us is that, you know, 5-10 years is a long time, but actually it isn't in the long scheme of things. So the thing is that, how long have you been, if I may ask, how long have you been involved?
1 year.
1 year. So the thing is, try to understand.
So 7-8 years, 10 years.
Yeah, 7-8 for like 10-15 years, because I've been a devotee since I was 17, and I'm 65 now. Well, 65 at the end of this month. But the thing is, try to understand. For the first like 10 years or more, I was so much affected by ADHD. I couldn't focus. So slowly, by purification, I started to read. I never used to read. I couldn't read. I couldn't focus. I couldn't do it. Like going out and chanting, distributing Prabhupada's books, but then also is that reading the books. When you read, then you say, oh, okay, there's like I was talking earlier about Sadachar. You read something, and then you say, oh, I have to apply that. And then it becomes second nature. Then you know you're making steps. Applying this, applying that. Fault finding. Okay, well, I don't like that person, but try it. You know what I mean? Then eventually you say, oh, okay, I'm not fault finding this devotee. I'm seeing his good quality, like it's mentioned in Scripture. Then you know, oh, I'm making some advancement there. You know what I mean? But every so often you do have it. When I say you get like that, you know, chintamani dust thrown on you, and then boom, and then that's when you become more determined, and then you keep going on and on and on. So it takes time. So don't become discouraged. You know, it takes time. But the little markers like that, as you read more, then you'll know the value of the different things, that markers that you say, okay, I've got that under my belt now. Okay, I'm ready for the next one. You know, because they're just like bumps in the road. If you don't learn how to get over that aparad or that attachment or whatever, you have to keep coming back to that bump in the road every time. And then eventually you've learned it, the bump's gone. And then you know, I've learned that lesson. Now I can go on to the next. It's when you don't learn that lesson, like I had one godbrother told me, goes, I never tasted any ecstasy, because he was so offensive. But I couldn't talk to him. He was such a kashatya. I couldn't talk to him. You know, he was, the walls were up, you know what I mean, 10 miles high. And I couldn't talk to him. You know, so it was hard, and I felt sorry about that. He's passed on now. Of course, he said he'll be a devotee in his next life. But anyway, I don't know. He might have remembered Ram at the time of death. He might have said Ram or Krishna, who knows? And then automatically. I had one god brother, and his mother was passing away, and she goes, "Where's your Krishna now?" Kartikeya was his name. "Where's your Krishna now?" And she died. Prabhupada said, "Oh, she went back to Godhead." She wasn't even a devotee, but she remembered Krishna. So our training that we're receiving is so, at the time of death, Ante Narayana Smriti will remember Vishnu or Krishna at the time of death. You know, that's the real test. This is what we're headed towards. So if you remember that, then you can go right back to Godhead, or go to the universe where Krishna's having his pastimes. Either one's great, you know. And if you do deity worship, you can also get Archana Siddhi. You can become perfect by performing deity worship. That's also there. There's many different ways. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasam, Sakyam, Apnanam, Nivedanam. You know, there's so many different ways how you can engage in Krishna consciousness. And in the beginning, you're doing what you like. But then after a while, then you're even doing service that you don't like because it's for Krishna and needs to be done. And then eventually you actually begin to like that service. You know, then you know that's a step. Oh, I made another step. You see, you know, you'll know them as you go along, as you study more. But you have to read. Prabhupada said, if you don't read all my books, you'll fall down. You have to read all his books. He said, there's nothing new. I put everything into my books. That means the books, the lectures, you know, it's all there. You just have to, you know, put your energy into it. And that's the whole point. I know it's hard. We're working. We have to work 8 hours a day. I used to work 14 hours a day. It's crazy. Prabhupada said no more than 8 hours a day. But now it's so hard because you got house payments, kid payments, college payments, you know, everything. So sometimes it's hard. But I never gave up on studying and researching. You know what I mean? And then eventually things, you know, start to click and become more and more. The purification happens little by little. So don't become you know, don't lament. It takes time, but it works. It definitely works. And this little boy knows it. Right? Hare Krishna.
When are you retiring?
If I'm in the medical field, so if we don't go into a world war, then the thing is that 2020 January, I'll be 66. 2020 January.
65, I think.
No,
I thought you could
no,
retire
I'm
and now you can come here.
1953, so I have to do one more year.
Then
One
you
more
can-
year
then you can
of
move
prison.
here. Then you can move here.
I'll just let you know, it'll never happen, but I can always come here. And once I'm retired, I can come here as often as you want. You know what I mean? Because I'll be free. You know what I mean? So I won't have to go to work every day like that. But I'll be able to come here any time. You know. But no, we're there. The house is paid for. We're not going to go all over again. The house is paid for. Anyway, that's my nonsense. But anyway, thank you for inviting me. It's always good to see all of you. Hare Krishna. Jai. Hare Bol. And thank you for coming, for bringing your son. You're very wonderful. You are too. Hare Krishna. Yeah, we always have to remember, anyone who comes here is special. You have to remember that. You know, there's all the people out there, how many people are taking the Krishna consciousness or even appreciating it? It's very rare. So anyone who comes to this door, you treat them with honor, respect, and happiness that they've come. It's very important. You know, and you don't ignore them because we're a preaching movement. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai. Sorry I took so long,
Hare Krishna.
but you know, sometimes it happens. Hare Krishna. Jai. I like that wall you built over there, that fence. That's really nice. And who's going to lead Archie? Oh, the Chaitanya, we're waiting for you. Haribol! Jai Namam Shri Krishna. Srimati Bhakti.